At 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 council meeting to order. Mr. Hampton, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
I will. Thank you, Mr. President.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Lees, can you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Boyce?
Here.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. O'Connor?
Present.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Present.
Ms. Wiles? Mr. Ayers?
Present.
8 present. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the June 11th, 2019 meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Petitions or comments by citizens who are present. I have one from Ms. Rogers. Would you like to wait until the end? Is that ordinance?
The new ordinance.
New ordinances? The second one on the list? Yes, okay. Mayor's report to council. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, members of council. We just have a guest, Senator Sparks just joined us. Senator, nice to have you. The second time today we've seen you, so welcome. Before I report, and I'll be short, Allie McGill, who is our consultant on nickel plate arts, is here to make a presentation relative to what she has been able to accomplish in the nickel plate arts area on behalf of the city. So, Allie?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a handout for each of you.
I can hand them out for you.
Well, that would be helpful. Thank you. Will also save us time, so thank you very much. I know that it will surprise none of you to hear that I would love to talk to you for hours about how awesome our arts community is, but Amy Smith made me promise to take no more than 7 minutes, so I promise to stick to that today. I have been submitting quarterly reports to the economic development team, so hopefully you're aware of that. You can always reference those if you have questions. And hopefully each of you received a copy of our arts guide last week. They were delivered to City Hall and sent to your mailboxes. The sheet that I have printed out here is one particular page from that document, which includes our annual report. And can I borrow that copy, Mayor? Because I didn't keep one for myself. That's important. So the annual report, the two numbers I really want to draw your attention to are that in 2018, Nickel Plate Arts sold over $33,000 worth of art here in our locations throughout the region. Most of that art was sold from our campus here in Noblesville. And that is a continual increase year over year on those art sales that come here to Noblesville, folks who are looking for art made by our local arts entrepreneurs. The second number I want to make sure you look at is the monies paid to artists for work or programming. So we directly paid over $21,000 to artists for running a class or running an activity for us, performing music. So that doesn't even count salaries that go to several of our staff members who are also artists. We're really an economic driver in this area, helping these artists become even more economically viable and showing that Noblesville is a place that can lead the arts throughout the state. If you turn your sheet over, I've tried to give you a very quick summary of some of our biggest accomplishments. One of our tasks as the convener of the Noblesville Arts Council and manager of the Cultural Arts District, is that we submit a report to the state annually, to the Indiana Arts Commission on what has happened in the district, and the highlights from that report this year. As you know, because you supported these projects, there was over $28 million in investment in the Cultural District last year. That includes the Levinson project, but it also includes the largest facade grant program we've done ever. We had the most approved projects last year. And it includes 16 businesses that either relocated to the district, expanded in the district, or had new projects approved within the district. And I think that really emphasizes how much a cultural district can help communicate that Noblesville is a thriving location where people want to live, work, and play. So going down that list, I know you're also aware of Noblesville, which has been our biggest project this year. This really was a cultural district project. It is a Noblesville-themed gift shop that is in the Visitors Center, and it features art that's made by people who live here, work here, grew up here, or by organizations that support the Noblesville community. So far this year, it opened in March. We did a pilot last winter in the holiday season, and then we had enough data to prove, all right, we can do this. So we opened it again in March, and since March, we've sold over $5,000 worth of art out of that single space, and that includes 374 items by 48 different creative entrepreneurs. I think it's really important to remember that these artists are small business owners. These are all folks who are making and producing things and driving our local economy. So Noblesville is a really important portal for them to get their work out. A lot of these artists have no other way to learn how people will interact with their products or how to build their business without a portal like Noblesville. So we're really excited that that's been working well. We hired staff members just to operate that space, and that's also proving to be an important economic opportunity. We have seniors, teens, and emerging artists who want a few hours here and there to sort of supplement their work, and Noblesville gives them that opportunity. So it's really cool. It's also fairly unique around the state, as I've been interacting with leaders of other cultural arts districts. Nobody has done a gift shop quite this way that's really focused on this economic advancement for local creatives. So we're getting some special notice for that, and I have a feeling that the Indiana Arts Commission may highlight us more in the future because of that project. Another big feature of this year is that we are trying to develop 6 signature events. Anyone who has been around downtown knows how many events we have in downtown Noblesville, and we're trying to consolidate some of the efforts of different merchants, different organizations, different arts people in downtown to focus on these 6 events and really put a lot of investment in them rather than doing a bunch of little one-offs. So the 6 events are listed there. Valentine's Day, Welcome to Ferryville, and Maker Fair are the first 3 events of the year that have all happened. Valentine's Day, although it only drew in 175 attendees, it's in the middle of February, like on a weekday. So having 175 people come spend several hours in downtown Noblesville in the middle of February is actually really impressive, I think. And we were able to get 8 businesses and organizations to participate in that with us and be featured on our campus. Similarly, Welcome to Ferryville included a really concerted effort to tie all of these businesses in downtown together. We had a lot of merchants who came up with their own brand new programming right then and there for this program. And although the weather was horrible, we still had 440 people come specifically for that program and participate around downtown. Speaking of horrible weather, Maker Fair happened on June 15th, and it was completely rained out. But we had 70 vendors show up this year as opposed to 43 last year and 12 the year before. So if you can get a sense of how much growth that is and how much interest there is in this opportunity, even though it was raining buckets, the majority of those vendors still showed up. We ended up closing the program early just because it was unsafe to have everybody out on the square through lightning and thunder and everything else. But we're finding other ways to weave those 70 vendors into our programs throughout the rest of the summer. They'll be featured during First Fridays and other events like that. And so we're really excited to be building that and, again, be showing that Noblesville is a place where these creative entrepreneurs can launch. So for the rest of the year, Art Fair on the Square is going to be the first Saturday in August. We're going to try to work on a feature during the tour of historic homes to highlight some of our cultural features here as well. And then shops, what I'm calling Shop Small Week, which is the day after Thanksgiving through the first Friday in December. We'll do a lot of holiday features that really emphasize these cultural groups. So if that were not enough, we're also working on some public art projects. If you've been to Noble Coffee lately, you may have seen the little bird murals that have been added inside the building. Noble Coffee paid for those. They hired an artist that we connected them with. So that was all a private thing and private investment, but it was a local artist who now is featured and local business that got exactly what they wanted out of it. So it was a really neat relationship. Next week, or actually this week, isn't it? In like 2 days, we're going to be sprucing up the crosswalk murals in Forest Park as part of Serve Noblesville. We're also working on a mural that'll go under the trestle bridge on your way into Forest Park, where the railroad goes over the road. So that design is in development. We've got a great local artist and arts consultant engaged on that. And then North Alley activation is moving forward. We're just waiting on quotes from Morphe Construction and to find out their availability. So we're really excited that that's finally carrying forward. We are working with the county to try to figure out how to fund a mural that'll be on the storage building behind Sid's. And there's several other mural locations or private business owners who have voiced interest in such things, so we're trying to piece all of those together. So by the end of this year, our public art inventory should be significantly expanded. The last things I want to bring your attention to are that we really want to start working on a master art plan for the district, which is really just a way to help us articulate what kind of art should go where, what kind of artists we're looking for, how do we handle art projects when they come to us. So that's something that the Noblesville Arts Council will be focusing on at our next meeting. We'll start the brainstorming and discussion process, and we are going to make sure that we incorporate all the other plans that Noblesville has, streetscape, UDO, all that kind of stuff. So the last project that we plan to work on this year is that we plan to take folks around to the 9 other cultural districts around the state so that we can see what other folks are doing, make those connections, do some brainstorming. Everyone's invited to go with us on that, so we'll be sending out inquiries to find out who would like to accompany us in the fall and early winter of this year as we visit those other locations. So finally, I want to make sure we all are on the same page about why this is so important. The final statement on the sheet there comes from Americans for the Arts. They do biennial surveys where they're really looking at arts investment around the country. And I think it's really important to recognize that the production of all arts and cultural goods in the U.S. added $764 billion to the economy in 2015, including $21 billion in international trade, which is a larger share of the nation's economy than transportation, tourism, and agriculture. And nonprofit arts in particular generate $166.3 billion in economic activity annually. It is really important that Noblesville participate in that particular type of economy, that we make it a priority because it has such far-reaching effects on our whole community. So that's my presentation. Anybody have any questions?
Questions? You must have done a good job.
Mr. President, just a comment. The magazine is very well done.
Thank you.
Very nice. I think there's some on the table out there.
Yes.
For people who are in here, haven't picked one up, I advise stopping by and pick one up. It's very well done. There
are 2 tearjerker stories in there. I can't even describe them without tearing up, but one about 3 different artists and what it took for them to become professionals. It's just such a great story.
Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your energy and your passion, that's great.
Thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it.
Mayor.
And I have to follow her. Well, she does a great job for us. She lacks a little bit of enthusiasm, but that's okay. A lot of things have been happening. We had our groundbreaking for the Levinson. Just a big project. Everybody knows about it, but it's just been a great project. Fair Hill Commons Concert, Journey Tribute Band. And then on the 18th, we had the president of Indiana Economic Development Commission and two other state officials that came. We visited Industrial Dielectrics, Garrett Holdings, and Borg Warner. And each kind of gave a little bit of a history about where they are, what they do, and I think those folks were impressed. They were frankly looking for leads for the state of Indiana and hopefully Noblesville. We were there to make sure it was Noblesville for businesses that they sell to, that they do business with, et cetera. But again, I think we impressed that group, and I think the owners of those businesses were flattered that we did visit them. We had a ribbon cutting at the roundabout for Greenfield and Howe. That will open up. It may be open now, within the next couple of days. Really a great, very important one, because that was a very dangerous intersection. Tomorrow is kickoff Serve Noblesville. There's a chamber lunch at Janus. The Cherish Hope for Children's Breakfast is Thursday morning. And again, Serve Noblesville will continue until Friday. I have a chamber strategy meeting, and City Hall will be closed on the 4th. And reminder certainly that the festivities at Forest Hill start at 2:30, the parade at 2:30, and then the festivities start there with fireworks at 10. So excited about that. One more item. I did not know about this until I got an email. We had 2 employees with our utility, Garth Powell and Raymond Didier. They were driving, doing their thing, and noticed a car with smoke coming out of the hood. Well, you know, you could just go on down the road and not think about that much or whatever, but obviously they did not, or I wouldn't be telling this story. They turned around, flagged this young woman down, got her out of the car, and just then, I mean within seconds, that car blew up. The front end, I mean, it was just a bad, bad scene. So I wrote them a nice note. But again, the story obviously is, you know, we really serve all of our citizens. I call them heroes and would call them that today, because had they not done that, we might have had a fatality. So again, 2 guys just doing their job, but took it upon themselves to help someone, and obviously I'm very proud of that. So any questions of me? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council committee reports.
Mr.
Taylor.
Finance Committee met last Thursday morning, and we had a few things on the agenda. First was the matching funds for Seminary Park grant. Mr. Bennett stated a Hamilton County Community Development Block Grant, known as CDBG. Coordinator offered the next fiscal year's grant of $90,000 to apply to Seminary Park, since their fiscal year really begins July 1st. Mr. Bennett stated that the only requirement is an amendment to the funding agreement with the county. He stated this will help fund the park. As everyone knows, we've been trying to revamp that park for a while. He checked with engineering, and engineering had no confirmed issues with the funding and didn't need it for other projects. Mr. Spalding stated that when we transferred money from the Parks Contingency Fund to cover the golf subsidy, he forgot that some of the contingency had been intended to help fund the Seminary Park project. Mr. Bennett asked for guidance from the committee regarding whether to spend most of the rest of the park contingency or ask for funding from the Downtown District Development Fund. I stated since spring has been rainy and golf revenue most likely will be low, I would rather save the rest of the park contingency in case it is needed for the golf subsidy. And Mrs. Wiles and myself agreed that the Downtown District Committee had already committed to help fund some of the Seminary Park project. Next item on the agenda was Parks and Recreation Management Software. Mr. Bennett stated his department currently has a software contract with ActiveNet, which takes a percentage of each transition instead of charging an annual fee. He stated they are in the 4th year of a 5-year contract, but the software does not meet their needs. He stated they would like to terminate the contract and switch to the Silva Plus software, which has more features, is user-friendly, and operates on an annual fee basis. He also stated an event calendar that could be used citywide could also be purchased for annual maintenance fee. Ms. Trexler was at the meeting also, and she stated that the current software payment structure is very expensive because there is a 3% charge on every transition, and she stated such a charge is normal for credit cards, but they charge it for cash and even refundable deposits. She explained the city must pay 3% for a reservation transition, and then if the reservation is canceled and the money is refunded, they must also pay a charge again. Mr. Spalding stated that new software purchase may be absorbed by the Parks Department budget, but a transfer could be executed later in the year if necessary. Mrs. Wiles recommended gathering data to support terminating the contract and purchasing the new software. If a transfer is needed, we will address it at that time. There's two other things we talked about, but they're both on our agenda for tonight. One was the appropriation transfer for alley activation, and the other one was for cash change and petty cash funds. Mrs. Ramon was an intent regarding the hiring process for a budget financial analyst position. Mrs. Ramon found that the salary ordinance specifies a minimum biweekly amount, so to offer a salary higher than that in the ordinance, it will have to be amended. Mrs. Wiles noted the need for an amendment will depend on the candidates and the offer that is being made. Ms. Ramon stated the position will be posted internally, first with a maximum salary amount, but externally, website posting will list a salary range. We did look over the claims, however, we did not have a quorum, so they do not come to you with a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Downtown District Committee met on June 17th. As mentioned, Seminary Park, the bids have been accepted. We're going to start to see work in mid-August, and it will wrap up at the end of October. There was much discussion about the Levinson project and the effect on traffic, and making sure that everybody knows that the Noblesville Now website is the place to go for that information. Alley activation, as we mentioned, has been, funding is in place, and we're going to start to see some of that furniture and some more activities, especially with the South Alley in transition. The North Alley becomes more important for smaller events. The lighting program swap out is going very well. And the banners and hanging flowers, we now have a template for those, and they should start to see those go up. We talked a little bit about the City Hall maintenance program. We're going to take credit for that, although Mr. Davis did all the work. And we got approved fencing for the restaurants to be a little more consistent, and we don't have the details worked out, but we've got a plan to get some fencing that's a little more uniform downtown. That's the gist of it.
Any questions for any other committee reports? Any questions or comments on the reports? Approval of claims.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Previously discussed ordinances. Ordinance 23-06-19. Council consider ordinance 23-06-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 24-06-14 regarding the encroachment of parking area into the landscape buffer for the flats at 146th at 15201 Flats Drive. Mr. Herschel?
Mr. President,
Mr. Jensen?
I would like to make a motion that we postpone previously discussed ordinance 23-06-19 for 2 weeks.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to postpone ordinance 23-06-19 until the July 9th meeting. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. New ordinances for discussion. Council consider ordinance 26-06-19, an ordinance amending section 38.03 of the city's code of ordinances regarding cash, change, and petty cash funds. Ms. Trexler?
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Good evening.
Evening.
Heather Trexler from Office of Finance and Accounting. Before you is an ordinance to change or amend the petty cash and cash change ordinance. We feel that if we make this change, we can better support the departments and some of the projects that they do, that they take care of. One, the old ordinance is clunky, so we're falling out of compliance. We have not been in compliance for a little while, hence because it's so clunky. We also did notice during our golf feasibility study, we realized that we're out of compliance. We would like to get a cash change taken care of for the parks, for the golf program.
Any questions, Ms., do you have anything else to add? Any questions of Ms. Trexler? If not, we will.
We discussed this quite a bit in the Finance Committee as well.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council to consider ordinance 27-06-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 06-0106, ordinance 36-6-08, and ordinance 29-08-17 concerning the promenade plan development. Mr. Howard?
Motion to introduce.
Mr. Howard, would you like for me to read all 4 of these together?
Yeah, we'll be discussing them together and then vote on them separately.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Council consider ordinance 28-06-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 59-12-02, ordinance 37-05-03, ordinance 21-06-13, and ordinance 28-08-17 concerning the Noble West Plan development.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Council to consider ordinance -29-06-19 and ordinance amending ordinance 23-06-14, ordinance 32-06-08, ordinance 38-08-17 concerning the crossings plan development.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
And council to consider ordinance 30-06-19 and ordinance amending ordinance 03-01-13, ordinance 24-06-14, ordinance 30-08-17 concerning the Chapel Point plan development. Mr.
Motion to introduce.
Been moved, introduced, and seconded. Mr. Howard, that was a lot to read, you know.
I understand. It was a lot to write, too.
I bet.
Fun with the federal government. If you recall, back in October of 2018, the city entered into an agreement which was presented to you for approval concerning the resolution of issues with HUD concerning a complaint that was filed by one of our wonderful citizens with the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana, Inc. Part of that settlement, after we went through the research, and the fair housing people at HUD see ulterior motives everywhere, but one of the terms of that agreement was that we would repeal certain language of certain multifamily zoning ordinances that had been passed over the years. Those ordinances concerned 4 projects, and frankly, now it's basically not much to do about nothing. 2 of those projects, the Millstone project on State Road 37 and the Flats project on Promise Road, the final certificate of occupancy was signed and approved before the agreement was ever entered into. So the provision of tax credit subsidized housing was not applicable because those projects were market rate projects. Since that time, the subject matter of ordinance 27 has also become moot because the Promenade project essentially has been taken over by the justice companies. They've pulled permits, and there is not only no efforts to seek any federal subsidies of tax credits, but that company is a long-standing company. They buy, they hold, and they are all full rent projects. The final project is the project covered by Ordinance 28. That's the Noble West project. That was first brought before the council in 2002, and nothing has happened since then. That's for the land north of Kroger and our park over on Hazeldale Road, and that project is still in developers' hands and still dormant. So essentially, the way this came up, we got the agreement in place, we sent it to HUD, they approved it, and working with the Noblesville Housing Authority, we had to file a compliance report of what we've done toward complying those, and in going through the items on that checklist, there was an oops, even though these ordinances had been drafted, they'd never been presented to you for approval. It is required under the agreement, which could result in substantial fines plus loss of CDBG funding, that we move forward with these repealers, basically repealing the language that prohibited tax credit deals. So with that, and we filed it with HUD and told them this would be on your agenda and we would get them a copy as soon as possible. So we'd like to move forward with these unless there's comments. But as far as the public's concerned, this does not create any federally subsidized projects in the city of Noblesville. This is recognizing some language that was in the old ordinances, and those projects, other than Noble West, which is essentially dead in the water, but the other three projects are moving forward without a tax credit. And I will now answer any questions you have.
Questions of Mr. Howard? Must have done a good job of explaining. I do have a citizen who would like to comment on this.
Okay.
Ms. Rogers, could you state your full name and address, and if you could, keep us to 3 minutes?
It's actually going to be a lot shorter than that. My name is Adrienne Rogers, 1308 Harrison Street, and I would like to withdraw my request to speak as Mr. Howard's comments did answer my questions. I was concerned about whether there would be additional HUD housing, but he has answered that question, and I feel satisfied with that.
Well, hey, that's
Thank you,
probably
Mr. Howard.
that might be a first that I've ever.
But I do, while I'm up here, want to say thank you very much for the alley work that's been done on the north end of town. That's awesome. It's going to make a wonderful difference with the noise on Monday mornings when the trash truck comes through and it's not banging in those big divots that used to be there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any other questions of Mr. Howard? With that, are we doing this in 2 weeks?
We can, or we can do it since it's withdrawn, and essentially we're only ratifying what we've already agreed to do. I would love to send these to Chicago tomorrow and put this matter at an end, but that's in your discretion.
Do we need to nominate, do we need to waive the rules on each one separately, I assume? Or can I
You have
make
to vote
one?
on them separately.
What?
You have to vote on them separately.
Well, I know we got to vote on them separately, but
Hold
can
on, hold on.
She's saying we don't.
we? Okay.
Actually, when I was looking at something else in the statute, found that you can approve multiple ordinances with one vote.
With that, then,
You can make the motion.
it'd be a long motion. Mr. President, I'm gonna get tired here. So I would like to make a motion that we waive the rules and vote on first reading for new ordinances for discussion 270619. Council to consider ordinance 270619, ordinance amending ordinance 060106. Don't we need to name all of them?
No, just a number.
Just a number.
That makes it, wow, you're making it really easy on me tonight. Awesome. All righty. Waive the rules and pass on first 270619, 280619, 290619, and 300619.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules. That requires a unanimous vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. And Motion carries 8-0. Now, we need a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr. O'Connor.
I would move that we approve ordinances 27-06-19, 28-06-19, 29-06-19, and 30-06-19.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 27-06-19, ordinance 28-06-19, and ordinance 29-06-19, and ordinance 30-0619. Ms. Lees, that'd be a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Hampton?
Aye.
Mr. Jensen?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
8-0, the ordinances are adopted.
Thank you very much.
Transfer number 1, council to consider transfer TA-09-19, an appropriation transfer in the Downtown Development Fund to fund alley activations. Mr. Spalding.
Mr. President, members of the council, Jeff Spalding, Controller. Very straightforward transfer request here. Again, a structure that we've set up for the Downtown Development Fund where the monies were appropriated within a contingency reserve to be allocated out to departments as decisions on recommendations from the Downtown District Committee are considered. And in this case, this transfers money from contingency into the Economic Development Department budget to fund some alley activation work that was discussed and recommended by the committee. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions, Mr. Spalding?
Mr. President,
Mr. O'Connor?
I would move that we approve TA-09-19.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to pass transfer TA-09-19. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you.
Council comments. Mr. Jensen.
I would just like, I know Ms. McGill and I think the mayor also referenced that tomorrow starts Serve Noblesville, which is a 4-day community service exercise that's going on. So thank you to, I know there's a lot of folks in City Hall that will be taking place, myself included, and appreciate all those people who give of their time these next 4 days to continue to make Noblesville the great community that it is. My 8-year-old son and I will be there tomorrow morning.
Are you painting?
Perfect.
I'm not sure what we're doing.
You could come to an
But
exit.
we're doing something.
You're doing
We're doing
something.
Are
something.
you sure you don't want to go to an
I'm not
exit
going to do
interview?
that.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hampton.
just one quick comment and congratulations to the Noblesville Miller Golf Team under the guidance of Coach Gary Deacon. They finished second in the state, so runner-up for the Millers at the golf championship. So, well accomplished.
Very good. Any other comments? We don't have another meeting before the big festivities on the 4th of July. I appreciate the mayor mentioning that. Downtown has been busy every weekend I've been down here, so there's still a lot of good things going on. And I appreciate all you moving this meeting along after our 3.5-hour retreat we just had. So with that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved to adjourned. All those in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.